Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, so what's on my mind right now is, I have been made aware that Rondo and Russell Westbrook had a past. Now, I knew of it, but I had forgotten about it, just like a lot of things. So I didn't work it into my equation when talking about Rondo coming to this team. I worked that dynamic into the equation when considering another player coming to the team. Forget who that player was, but they had an issue. Westbrook had an issue with that person as well, and I discussed it, saying, we need to be careful about um, wanting players to come on this team that have had issues. We got a lot of vets on this team, and some of those guys have had history with a lot of people, and those conflicts can come back around and mess up your locker room when guys get on the team with one another after 15 years of beefing. So, it's one of those situations here where we're looking at that and we're saying, okay, is that going to be something that they're going to have issues with? Is it going to rear its ugly head when we need it not to, or during difficult times, or what have you? But I'll tell you this: obviously, I don't know these people. Don't know them from Adam. They don't know me. So I'm not going to sit up here and say what I know or what I think in regards to their personalities. But what I've gathered, and what I feel is that these are two professionals who are going to respect one another's desire to win and a competitive edge and motor. It's one thing when you're going against somebody, they're the antagonist, they're who you need to knock off their game in order to win the basketball game, and approaching it from that standpoint and what comes with that. Sometimes it can get emotional, sometimes it can get personal, and just like any workplace situation, sometimes guys can bring stuff from offside to the job, to the workplace, and it can become a little more heated in some cases than it needs to be. Who knows what's going on? But what I can say is, once you get a guy on your team, once you guys are part of the same goal, once you see that person doing all of those antics for you, you don't hate it at all. You appreciate it. Once you see them screaming and yelling in celebration of the same thing you're screaming and yelling about, and y'all both sweating hard trying to push forward, you tend not to look at them as the op no more. They're not the op. They're somebody that you have to work with in order to accomplish a goal. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean y'all friends. It doesn't necessarily mean you touched by the idea that they are now on your team and now suddenly y'all besties and nothing like that. No, it just means that you understand that this is yet another weapon on your side. You don't have to go back and forth with this dude. Now, in practice, you're gonna push him, but the most important thing is to make sure that his piece, who he is working in conjunction with the overall machine that you're a part of. And those two players understand that. I know they understand that, because you don't get as far into this league with the type of success that both of them have had without understanding that. And these are also guys that have been around players that they don't like. They both have had issues with people. I remember who that player was now. It was Patrick Beverly. That's who we're referring to. He had hurt Russell Westbrook, and I was wondering if it was smart to have LeBron James being reported to have wanted him here or being willing to bring him here. I was wondering if that would hurt chemistry. So the same could apply for Rondo and Westbrook, given that they had a history as well. What I was reminded of was a situation where there was a game going on where I guess Rondo's brother had said something of that nature. Westbrook didn't like it, so they ended up going back and forth. Westbrook stopped the game, said, "Hey, we're not having this." I think that's how that went. Somebody's brother. It was one of their brothers. Somebody got into it. I might have got that confused. But the point was, it had turned into a situation where it was a family affair. It was on the court, and it was awkward. And then later on, a couple years later, when I guess that was last year, Russie had gotten into it with Rondo as well. I think when the Rondos with Atlanta and got tossed from the game in that altercation. So they've had their battles, but that's to be expected. These are two warriors. When you think about 2 point guard warriors over the past 15 years, their names are coming up early. So you understand that both of these guys come with a chip on their shoulder. Both of these guys are going to run through a brick wall for their teams. Both of these guys are going to call stuff out when they don't like it. And both of these guys are going to stand on what they believe in. Do I think they'll butt heads? Yes, they ain't the only two players on this team that are going to butt heads. But that's normal. That's normal. When you're trying to work together, there are going to be ups and downs, and sometimes there will be things you will have to work out, knots that you will have to untangle in order to make this thing work. And these are guys who have battled against one another for a long time. These are guys who haven't played on the team before. These are guys who have had roles where they've had individual success and are now going to have to make sacrifices that maybe they haven't made before, for this thing to work. I look at a guy like Russell Westbrook, and I say, man, you're going to have the ball in your hands probably fewer times than you've probably ever had it. Even though we expect him to run a lot of the offense, we're going to give him the point guard position. It's still LeBron's team, and we know what time it is. When at the end of the game, he's going to have the ball in his hands, and he's going to be making decisions, and Westbrook's going to have to find a way to be productive within that. And that's a sacrifice, Those are the type of sacrifices that he didn't have to make very often. Obviously, in Houston, it was like that. But, that's not something that you could say he's had to do a lot in his career. Not last year either. So, the sacrifices will be there and the frustrations will come with having to deal with those changes. But at the end of the day, guys are playing for something. Guys are mature. This is the oldest team ever, arguably. And if anybody understands what they're signing up for, it's these guys. That's my opinion. If anybody knows what they're signing up for, it's them. And if there was an issue that couldn't have been resolved, they would have never brought Rondo in. If Westbrook and Rondo were mortal enemies, negotiations wouldn't have gotten as far as they have. So I've seen a picture of them together, arm around, Westbrook had his arm around Rondo. It was cool. They're going to find a way to not only get along, but they're going to find a way to make each other better, in my opinion. I think, as I've said on camera yesterday, I think Rondo's going to help Westbrook with his shot selection and with improving his shooting this year. Why do I think that? Because Rondo turned himself into a very, very, very reliable three-point shooter after starting his career as somebody who was, considered someone who couldn't shoot. So at this point, I think that attribute and that particular thing is going to be something that they can kind of bond over. I think there'll be other players there as well who will help them, with it. It ain't just going to be those two trying to figure it out together. You have guys like Trev, Bron, of course, other players on this team who are vets, Melo, who are going to be present to help that chemistry facilitate well. You got to understand, even if there are a couple guys on this team who don't get along, you ain't got too much time to be beefing because you're going to be too busy laughing with Bron and Dwight. Like, this is going to be a good environment, I'd imagine, for the players to be in because we're going to be winning. You're in sunny Los Angeles. It's going to be cameras everywhere in regards to you. Maybe that could be a bad thing. But the point is, these are players that are used to that energy, used to that type of attention, getting it again for the first time in a while. A guy like Melo, yeah, people are always paying attention to Melo. Cameras are always in Melo's face. But he ain't had that New York media attention in these previous places he's been. Houston, he gets attention, of course, because his name. But it ain't like, hey, when you do great, let's talk about how Melo's doing great. You know what I mean? That type of, let's go talk to Melo. Let's have him at the event. He's in Los Angeles now. And this is going to be more of his speed, in my opinion. That's a real New York big city guy. And he's been able to make it in OKC. He made it in Portland. He laced up his bootstraps, but that was not in his DNA. You know what I mean? That's not who he is. He's a guy who needs to be in the bright lights and needs to be considered one of the great players that he is, one of the great scorers of all time. So this is a better environment for the brand of Carmelo Anthony. And I think that for same Dwight Howard, you know what I mean? We know this is his favorite place to play through the ups and downs. This is home for him. So it's like, I just don't look at it and say, okay, Westbrook and Rondo going to have to figure their problems out. I look at it more so as Westbrook and Rondo are going to be in a room with a bunch of people who are going to be laughing, a bunch of people who are going after the same thing, a bunch of people who are going to be focused on winning, a bunch of people who are going to be studying film, a bunch of people who are going to be pushing each other and pushing themselves and trying to prove that they're not too old. Everybody on this team got to prove they're not too old. And AD's not exempt from that because he plays older than he is. He looks older than he is in terms of his speed last year, in terms of how he was moving. He looked like he was 30. Hopefully what's going on out there right now is he said he got some new trainers. He got some new people out there that are helping him work with his conditioning and get him in better shape. But for me, that's what I want to see. I want to see AD over the next, not just this year, but over the next 3 years, put strength on his body. That's what I want to see. I want to see him. I want to see him put on some weight. I know that can be a little dangerous for guys who are big because of their knees and things like that. But I just feel like AD is a bit, at this stage in his career, with the injury issues that he has had, he should be looking to change his entire body. You know, you've been working with LeBron James for 2 years now. It's time for that to rub off. Now you're gonna be in there with Russie. These are workout warriors, bro. That should rub off over the course of time. I expect AD to put on about 15 pounds. Honestly, I do, and I think it's the right thing for him to do. And if he's not putting on pound, he needs to get leaner in a way that makes him more elusive, faster footed, and just overall more durable, man. That's what I hope for AD, because the issues that this team is going to have is not necessarily chemistry issues or brain stuff. No, it's going to be about physically. Can they hold up for the whole season? Physically, can AD and Dwight Howard keep that front court, intact? That's what it's about. Because if Dwight goes down, suddenly as talented as the team as we are, we're really slim. I got on camera yesterday and I said, and I think it was either yesterday or the day before, and I was talking about filling the roster spots. I was saying, the Lakers didn't need a center. And then I listened back to that video and I'm like, nah, I'm not ready to die on that hill. Even though I said that, I want to come here right now and let you guys know that can we get away with not bringing in another center? Yes. Would it be wise for us to bring in another center? Yes. 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 Do not run with what I said in that moment, because at the end of the day, we're relying very much on Dwight Howard and AD to hold that down. We did not supplement that position as well as I think we need to. So while I don't want to just bring in a guy like DeAndre Jordan, just for the sake of having another older guy, because I don't know that he has a whole lot left, and in that position, I want my guy to have a lot more than he has at this stage, I feel. And I want him to be able to stretch the floor as well. So that was my thing in regards to saying we didn't need a center. In the place of bringing in a guy like James Ennis who could stretch the floor, I would rather have James. But make no mistake about it, right now, we are heavily reliant upon Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis, and I would rather us not be. So that, yes, do we need a center? Absolutely. That would be the thing. That's actually probably more important than anything right now, because I think we got a lot of shooting. We've done a great job picking up some real deal shooters. The question is, will they be able to help us in other areas like defense and keeping the ball moving enough to where we can keep them on the court doing what it is that they do? Because what we can't have, and not that I think this is going to happen at all, what we can't have is Malik Monk only being able to shoot the three and then being deficient defensively, being deficient in other areas that ultimately puts us in a position to not be able to have him and his shooting on the floor when we need it. So that's going to be the question. Our shooters are not our superstars. So if we're going to use our shooters, we're going to have to accept that their flaws are going to be on the floor at those given moments. For whatever that's worth. May not be a whole lot. We know these guys, and these are great guys to have, but, it's just saying, just in general, defense is going to be something that we are going to have to supplement with great offensive play and good, sound offensive possessions, because we're not a great defensive team this year. We don't have some of them lockdown defenders that we had in the past that made it so that things were a lot easier for us. We still got Anthony Davis, so that's going to make us at least a middle-of-the-pack defensive team, to be honest with you, just with his presence alone. But that does not mean that's going to translate to us having great games or great quarters and stuff like that defensively. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. So that's what I would like to see us get a little better defense. Maybe some would say DeAndre Jordan helps us with that. I just look at him as somebody who's done. And look, this is my thing about quote-unquote players that I think are done. If I'm to believe that Rondo's done, I still want him because I look at him as a coach on the floor. We need his mind more than we need his body. Facts. So that's why I want to bring Rondo in. I'm happy to have him, even if he can't do anything literally. However, some of the older players that I wouldn't mind bringing in, like let's say a guy like Kevin Love. I said, okay, I would be willing to bring in Kevin Love. Of course, Kevin's not getting that buyout, so don't worry about that. But if, let's say I want to bring in Kevin Love, the reason why I would bring in Kevin Love, even though I don't think he has much left, is because I know he can shoot. Because I know this is a team that's going to have so much double teams going to them stars that it's going to leave wide open shooters to do what it is that they do best. And a guy like Kevin Love, as I've said a million times, can shoot the three, even at 55 years of age in a YMCA. He's going to be able to hit that shot. So what you want to do is get those specialists out there for key moments. Key moments. You don't want them carrying no heavy load or even being the first guys off the bench. But in key moments, when you need a guy to be able to string together some shots to space the floor in such a way, you can call upon one of those guys, bring him in for a couple possessions. He hits a couple threes. They call a timeout. He doesn't even need to come back in the game. But that's the type of thing that I can look at a guy like Kevin Love can do for me. So for me, I would rather have a guy like Kevin Love, even though he'd be considered washed, rather than a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who can't give me that if he's washed. If he's washed, then the things that DeAndre Jordan is known for doing, he's just not doing a lot of. The things that he didn't do, still not getting done. Not shooting the ball well, not shooting free throws. Limited, very limited. DJ is great when he has his ability to jump out the gym and play 82 games without getting hurt and block a bunch of shots, even though that was never his forte necessarily. Rebounding was his thing. I love having a rebounder down there, but if that's all he's doing, I can find that elsewhere. And attributes that he doesn't have, including youth. So that's my thinking in regards to that. That's kind of where I was going with that. But anyway, so that's what I got, man. I'm happy Rondo's here. Him and Westbrook are going to be fine. I'm not worried about that. I'm just not. I think if they butt heads, it's going to be in a healthy way. Those are two dogs, two killers, two guys who want to win a championship right now. Would not be in this uniform if they felt that they couldn't win, especially Rondo, and this is an environment that he wants to be in. That Clipper environment, that wasn't it. That Atlanta environment, that was about collecting a check. This is going to be about coming back to a situation where he's needed, more so for what it is that he knows rather than for what it is he can do, and he's going to be sharp in that situation because Rondo has already proven that he can be. He's done it for us already. This is home for Doe. We know him. He knows us. He didn't ride for the Clippers. That's even more of a reason to bring him in. He didn't give him his best. They didn't have anything to give him either. He wasn't home. Now he is. Welcome home, Doe. That's what I got. And as far as everything else, man, if any news comes up, of course, I'll bring it to you. But for now, I'm out.